I'm a really big believer that God doesn't put a lesson in front of us that we can't handle. I was in a very abusive relationship. I was sexually abused growing up. Like I had every type of abuse in my life to not love men. And now look what I do for a freaking living. I know God put that in my presence because now I've affected thousands, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of men to do better in life. And that's when he's seeing that he feels on edge all the time or empty when he's dating, right? Where he notices that he's getting in bad relationships, gaslighting, and the women are manipulative. He's also people pleasing. He's trying to attract women because he has more control when they need saving. A man knows when he's not in the right place. You're on edge. You have those butterflies, those nervous flies feeling. You're always constantly thinking about this girl. When is she going to call me? It becomes obsessive. We're in loving relationships to cope with something we have not put the mirror on ourselves.
Is your toothpaste attacking your manhood? Probably. There's new science that demonstrates store-bought toothpaste may be linked to lower testosterone levels. But here's the catch-22. You gotta keep your mouth clean, right? Poor oral hygiene is linked to low T and ED. But at the same time, big paste and natural paste options are packed with feminizing, manhood-killing ingredients that crush your confidence. Men swallow this stuff every day when they brush their teeth. No wonder testosterone levels have declined every decade since the introduction of these harsh chemicals in our everyday products back in the 1950s. But what's it got to do? Until now, there were never no other options. Yet with the brand new legendary men's care toothpaste bundle, you can get your clean teeth, brighten your smile, and freshen your breath with the only toothpaste carefully crafted just for men. Free of harsh, kick-to-the-nuts chemicals found in store-bought paste, and safe from hippie oils and popular natural brands toothpaste that cause increasing moves, aka man boobs. For a limited time, you can get free shipping on your order of legendary men's care toothpaste, plus an extra 10% off when you use the coupon code REBUILD10. Again, go to legendarymenscare.com right now, get free shipping plus an extra 10% off when you order today with coupon code REBUILD10. Apollonia, welcome to the Superhuman Life.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I'm really excited about diving in here today. We've had some amazing conversations over the past month or so, and you've been working with men for quite a bit of time. You've had your hands on a lot of men. Maybe that doesn't sound properly, but you've helped a lot of men find intimacy, find relationships, and find that special woman in their lives. So I want to dive into that right out of the gate. You wrote a book, or it's an ebook called "The 7 Common Mistakes Men Make when Attracting a Woman." So with all the work that you've done, the thousands of men that you've had the opportunity to work with, what's the biggest mistake that you see men make when finding or attracting a woman?
Oh, not having standards for the women they date. Dating because she's pretty, but not anything else to offer behind the surface level of her beauty.
Okay, so just a physical attraction.
A lusting relationship, yes.
Got it. So I guess then what do you believe they should be looking for? Obviously, we want the physical attraction that needs
For
to
sure.
be there. I would assume,
For
right?
sure.
So going a layer deeper, if that's the mistake that they're making, where should they be looking? What are those key attraction points?
Yeah, so I talk about this in my community very often. I'm the woman that, is telling men to set their standards for the women they date. And the reason being is because I think of two reasons why men do this. Well, first of all, I want to get that out of there because the first thing I say when I say that, men are like, well, I don't want to settle. I don't want to be with an ugly woman. I don't want to be with an overweight woman if I'm working out and da 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 da, right? But what we exaggerate so much on is as humans, we're always going to attract someone we are naturally physically attracted to. But we put so much emphasis on just finding that we don't trust ourselves sometimes that the woman that we'll be attracted to will flow, right? If you think about it, like if you're attracted to a woman, you're going to give her an opportunity. You're going to talk to her, maybe go on a date, swipe right on the dating app, whatever it may be, right? So, but we put so much emphasis on body, looks, and all this. And I think there's a couple of reasons why. I think in being in a man's world for almost 10 years now, or a little over 10 years, right at it, I think that a lot of things that I've seen is there's a lot of emphasis in men saying to other men, like, make sure like she's a 10 and kind of rating women as, I should say, like objects, right? In some way or another. And not saying that they're objectifying them, but more rating them. So what happens is like, let's say you, Frank, you see a girl and you're like, yeah, I think she's a 10. But then I'm over here like, well, I think she's actually like a 6 because she's not my type, right? Well, like who's to say who's a 10 and who's a 6? So what happens here is it puts men in a self-fulfilling prophecy of let me seek approval because if I get this woman on my shoulders because she's a 10, I'm going to be the man. But yet under what we're teaching women on that sense is all I got to keep up is with my beauty, and I don't have to do the work inside. I don't have to treat him right. I don't have to nurture him. I don't have to. So we're also, it's a double-edged sword. You see what I mean? And so beautiful women are like, okay, because of my beauty, that's my monetary value as well, right? So I've seen this so much in the men's world, and I think it's really important for men to now take a step back and be like, I'm the chooser, not just the woman. Like I get to choose what type of woman that I want in my life because when men go from this way of training in a society of what, just make sure that you uh get a really good looking woman and she has a hot body and like guys are gonna be like, damn, how did you get that? Excuse my French, right? So what I always say to you is think about this for the guys that are listening to the podcast. I'm a woman, obviously, and I represent myself as a woman. So one of the things that I think I can speak highly of about this is because as a woman myself, when I was growing up, and I've interviewed over thousands of women and questioned them and men. And I'm going to tell you the statistics when I did. I did 1,000 questions and the ratio of this was 98% of women said, yes, they've heard this in their life. Like it was like 98.8. And then when I went to men, it was literally like 5 or 8%. I think it was like 5 to 5.8. I think I'm mixing it up. And this was like 2 years ago. And the question I asked is women, when you're growing up, have you ever heard, make sure you find a man that treats you well? Make sure you find a man that's good with his mom. Make sure you find a man that wants children. Make for sure you find a man that has financial success. Make sure you find a man that has a good job. Make sure you don't choose a man that's going to physically abuse you. Make sure, right? As a woman. We're teaching our women this. But how many times have men heard growing up, make sure you choose a woman who treats you well? Make sure you choose a woman who knows exactly what she wants from life. Make sure you choose a woman that knows her values. Make sure you choose a woman that is aligned with if she wants children or not. Make sure you choose a woman that will be a good mother, right? How many times have men, and probably men are listening right now, probably be like, whoa, I've
Well, how many
never had.
men haven't asked themselves these questions? What are my values in life? What is it that I ultimately want? In order to have that answer for the woman that you're trying to bring into your world, you need to have some of these things clearly defined in your own life. Wouldn't you agree?
For sure, for sure, and that's why a lot of men don't because it starts from, childhood. It starts with society, right? Like, you see so many commercials and this woman is being, in Cinderella stories and captivated by a man, but, like, we're not representing that men should be a chooser too, and they can choose a woman. What I think we represented more in the past before is women choose the man. So men, you show up, you look good, you take her out. Yeah, that's great, but you go into a prove mentality of trying to convince her why you're the guy for her. But what happens if it's just a mutual effort?
One of the things I love, and this is going to come out here in today's conversation, is just your view from both sides. I mean, I love that, you've been in the trenches for 10 years, but you've been, living in the world as a woman for the entirety of your life. So you're able to speak from both of these perspectives. Staying on the attraction piece here, because you and I originally connected, obviously, on the porn addiction side of things. That's how kind of you reached out to me. We had an amazing conversation on your show. How much of this kind of attachment to the physical side of things are you seeing playing with just the amount of men that are consuming pornography? Like there's got to be a crossover or carryover into that, right? Like we're conditioning and training ourselves that physical beauty is the most important things. We go to pornography, we consume. Then we got in the world. We're just looking for what we've been training and conditioning ourselves. How, like, speak to that if you can a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So I definitely noticed that a lot of men, like in their dating and they're single, they'll really just go after looks. So they find themselves in toxic relationships, sex-based relationships. They find themselves chasing woman's body, fantasizing about her body, then finding their insecurities in her because they fantasize about one object on her body, meaning maybe her butt, her boobs, something like this. And they fantasize on that object and they say, I can't picture another man touching her butt or something like this, right? So when they start dating, so they get into hyper focus, then they become needy, then they become completely insecure. And it's because they are chasing an illusion. And then with men that go into relationships and they have some type of pornography addiction or actually feeding the views a lot in their life, we should say, what happens is they start using sex as validation in their relationship. And, we've all been in relationships. Your sex life goes in and out in relationships. You can come from a family loss, something's happening in your hormones, to being busy at work. And if you're keeping tabs, like if we don't have sex more than 3 times a week, this means she's cheating on me. That's where they go. Oh, she's falling out of love with me, Apollonia. We've only had sex once this week, right? So they start validating their sex life to their worthiness, and they start validating their sex life to the monitor of healthy or not. So they think the more sex they have, the more healthier their relationship is. But on the other side, this is why I love doing what I do, because as women, what happens is in our mind, it's like, why can't my husband or why can't my boyfriend just sit here and just nurture me without even having sex? Like, I give him everything I want. I'm a wheelhouse, and then I'm like a horse in bed for him. Like, I've heard women talk exactly like this, and I'm here building a family. I'm here building my business. And the moment I don't have sex with him, and they feel so much pressure. And so this is also leading to breakups and divorces, because women 9 out of 10 times want to ask for a divorce because they don't feel emotionally connected with their partner. Emotional connection doesn't happen through sex. There's things called emotional foreplay, which I talk about with my guys. There's things called, and effective communication. Women are completely different when it comes to sexual behaviors and being intimate with their husband or their boyfriend.
Yeah, we had a recent guest on the show talking about, he wrote a book called The Six Pillars of Intimacy. Tony DiLorenzo, he's been running the One Extraordinary Marriage podcast and movement for over 14 years now with his wife. And he talks about physical intimacy, financial intimacy, recreational intimacy, like getting out and playing. Like that's something like we get lost even as adults, like just having play in our life, but what it can bring into a relationship. Then you had touch, and then
Yeah.
sex was like the last one, but that's where
Yeah.
people always go to.
Mm-hmm.
In
So
order
true.
for yeah, in order for a man though to get out there and attract a woman, like I believe he's got to have a solid like frame and foundation built in his life. And I see a lot of young men thinking that the woman is going to complete him, right? Like it's kind of like that Jerry Maguire like lied to us all. It's like it's not a woman's job, in my opinion, to complete the man. I think a man needs to complete first, and then he brings a woman into his world. What are your thoughts and takes on kind of like guys maybe not being ready to pursue a relationship? Like where should a guy be at in life before trying to go out and attract a woman?
Yeah, so here's the thing, is like I believe you have to fall down a couple of times, because in mistakes are lessons, right? So like I had to cheat on a boyfriend in my 20s to learn that cheating is not for me, you know what I mean? I had to do something like we have to embrace our mistakes, quote unquote. People call them mistakes. I always say quote unquote because in mistakes are lessons, and as long as you don't fall if and here's where it gets to your question, is if you don't show up for the lessons, the same mistakes will happen, right? So what I love about my work is I just ever since I was young, always had this like epiphany or like heart to heart connection for men. Like I saw a lot of traumas growing up. Like my father wasn't loved in his childhood at all. He had children to replace that love and now has none of his children in his life because he's highly narcissistic and manipulative. So it's really hard for us sisters to be in his life. So I have 3 sisters and a brother, and we don't even talk to him. And so I actually help my sisters with this, and kind of we've already tried to have a relationship. And the reason why I'm so soulful and purpose, and I think what separates me, because so a lot of people will be like, well, she's a woman, she doesn't get it. Well, I actually do, because I'm not biased because I am a woman. And also, too, there's a different type of soul connection that I have for men to do well in relationship and life, because it's my purpose. It's in my soul. Like, this is my God purpose, what God put me on here to do and speak from a woman's voice. Right. And so, with that said, men that I wouldn't say shouldn't date, but men that need to show up better in dating is the ones that continue to not face and embrace their emotional challenges, right? Because I don't want men to think like, "Oh, you need to show your emotions." But no, like I definitely know that part of showing your emotions is also a reward for someone else you trust. It's not for everybody. And so part of this is getting connected to finding out who you are. What are you passionate about? What do you want from life? How do you want to feel in a relationship? What are the mistakes that you've gone through already in your life? And how did you overcome them? And what cycles and patterns do you not want to repeat? When you start having a sense of awareness, like that mirror effect, then I feel like you can be the catalyst for your own growth at times and choose better in your relationships. But when you are suffering and you're not being a catalyst and you're not looking in the mirror and saying, "What do I need to fix?" but instead looking at someone else to fix you and looking at like pornography as, "Okay, this is my cure for all," or also dating can become an addiction as well. Love is also a self as addiction, just as much as drugs and pornography, right? And so you have to have a level of awareness first to even get anywhere to bypass that stuff. And a level of awareness is by putting that mirror back to you and taking responsibility because no matter what, you're never the victim in life. Like you really aren't, unless obviously there's other things that happen, but, like, I love that you're faith-based, but I'm a really big believer that God doesn't put a lesson in front of us that we can't handle, right? And, I was in a very abusive relationship. I was sexually abused growing up. Like, I had every type of abuse in my life to not love men. And now look what I do for a freaking living. Like, I almost lost my life to an abusive relationship, right? So, like, I look at that as a blessing, and I get chills every time I talk about it because I know God put that in my presence because now I've affected thousands, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of men to do better.
Yeah, I want to get back to the dating addiction thing here in a minute and just see where that can potentially show up in somebody's life. But I want to put a closure on this question. I agree. We need to fail. We need to go out, try, test, stumble, pick ourselves back up. But is there ever a point in a man's life where he is not ready?
For sure, for sure. And that's when he's seeing that he feels on edge all the time or empty when he's dating, right? Where he notices that he's getting in bad relationships, gaslighting, and the women are manipulative. He's also people pleasing. He's trying to attract women because he has more control when they need saving, right? So a man knows when he's doing like he's not in the right place. You're on edge, you have those butterflies, the nervous flies feeling. You're always constantly thinking about this girl. When is she going to call me? It becomes obsessive. That means that we're dating to cope. We're in loving relationships to cope with something we have not put the mirror on ourselves.
So where does he need to? I mean, reach out to you, but what should be that man's internal dialogue? Like, what should he be thinking? What should he be doing and getting himself ready? How do you heal from that if you're not going out there and failing and learning?
Yeah. So, I mean, it can come from different things. It can come from childhood trauma, past divorces, it can come from like relationship traumas, things like this. But I think where he needs to start is really doing like I have like a pillar of life, basically, and looking at his life as a whole. Like, what type of friendships does he have in his life? Does he have any friendships in his life? What type of hobbies is he doing and goals, right? What type of pressure is he putting on his purpose, quote unquote? Because so many men want to find their purpose, but not every man's purpose is like the same man's purpose. A man's purpose can be to be a father, a great one. And another man's purpose can be to build a business, right? But the only way you find your purpose is by putting yourself out there and doing things that are taking you out of your comfort zone. So, thinking of ways that you can take yourself out of your comfort zone, getting other support groups, like being involved in other support groups like you have for yourself, men's groups, things like this, and exploring those sides of you. When a man gets here, it's really about he doesn't have a relationship with himself. So think about how you would create a relationship with a woman. And you probably know already how you would do it. So what are you doing with that with yourself? Right? How much are you investing in yourself that you would invest typically with a woman?
Love that, and I'm so glad you talked about the male to male relationship. Speak to that, right? Speak to having men in your life that have the ideal relationship that you're trying to find. If all you're doing is hanging out with guys that are sleeping with chicks Friday and Saturday night, that's what you're going to end up doing. So what is that? And speak to how you coach guys and help them. Just the role of having the proper male relationships, not just men, but the proper.
Mhm. So there's 2 coins of that, and I wanna this is where a lot of people, like women too, they're like, "Whoa," and men too. I'm a woman and I'm a coach. The first thing I will say is you need male friends because you have too many women friends or you don't have any male friends at all. Typically, when a man gets raised maybe by a single mother, he has for more feminine nature. And so he has to be around more masculine men. And typically they isolate sometimes or they have more women friends. When I have a client like this, I have to give him steps to making more friends in the man's world. And so sometimes, I get both sides of the coin because I am a woman. I'll attract men like that for coaching, but then if they come in for the right reasons and I tell them, let's work on some friendships with other men. But in general, there's a lot of times where so I host big retreats twice a year, and these men fly into Miami. And whether the biggest thing I've recollected from all of this is men don't have a brotherhood where they can find support and very healthy advice. What they'll find is one of their bros will be like, "Dude, who cares? Like, she's just stupid anyways. Like, just break up with her. It doesn't matter." Right. But then when you have a brother that is intentional, in tune with life, is able to open up because he's open himself, he can say, "Yeah, that's really bad that she did that, but what made her do that and what led you to react like this? What's going on, man?" Like, let's call it for what it is and hold you accountable instead of just brushing things over your shoulder to feed your ego, but instead serving you with intellectual conversation and challenging you with a different mindset. That's the type of men that you need in your life, I believe. I do think that those other guys are great to be around, especially if you're single, and they're great at to picking up talking to women and being in the social light, of course. But you have to pick and choose when those friends should show up. Many of us, not just men, but women too, go into friendships and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna give him the jail out of free card just because I've been friends with him for 20 years." Right? That's not like, you can meet a friend a year from now, and that friend in a year can give you so much more than that friend ever did in those 20 years. And that's growth. That's where I think men, I don't know if you've noticed this, Frank, but I think this is where men struggle a lot, is finding those friendships. Because in my retreats, they come back. These guys travel together now. They're always messaging. And one of the guys just called me the other day and he's like, "I just want to let you know something. I had the biggest epiphany, and I see this all the time. I was talking to my boys about a girl and they brushed it on the rug. The moment I called one of the guys from the retreat, they're like, how is this girl aligned with your values, dude? Like, she just did this. I know your value is trust. How are you going to trust a girl that does this?" And it was like a deeper level conversation. He's like, "Man, you're right." But his other friend was like, "Dude, just sleep with her. It's okay. Like, it's fun. Like, whatever. Like, that's how women are. Treat her like
Yeah.
crap," or something like this, right?
Yeah, I'm getting chills as you're talking about, the conversations and what's happening inside of your communities, because this for me has been really the greatest thing that's come out of some of the pivots and change that we made in our coaching. So for a long time when I first got started, I had no clue what I was doing. I wasn't willing to put men in an environment. I needed to work one-on-one. And then about a year and a half ago, I was like, no, these guys need brotherhood. They need community. And now once a month, we launch a cohort and it's 8 to 10 guys and we're having regular vulnerable conversations. These guys are conquering their porn addictions. What's coming out of that though is exactly what you're saying. We had a group of guys. These groups are all across the country. One of them was a truck driver. He was across on the West Coast. He reached out to a couple brothers within the group. They all coordinated a Saturday meetup. They shot guns out in the desert, broke bread, had an amazing dinner. When they showed up the following week, you know what they said was the best part about that experience? It wasn't the guns. It wasn't the dinner. It was the conversation. Real, deep, below the surface level conversations about life, about values, about relationships, about meaning, about purpose, about philosophy, not about sports, not about picking up chicks, not about all of this. So there's so much there. And I think we talked about this on your show. One of the things that is hijacking or falsely providing this community to a lot of men these days is this online community or this red pill kind of community, right? They feel like, oh, because I'm listening to these guys or I'm reading these books or I'm watching these podcasts. Speak to, the red pill a little bit if you can. I don't want to knock anybody directly here, but how is this community misleading men? I know there's a lot of good there, and maybe we can bring some of that to the surface as well. But what are some of the dangerous things that are coming out of this red pill community?
Yeah, so, actually, like, I feel when Red Pill first started, it was amazing. Like, it was, like, all about purpose, finding your purpose, let's support one another. But I'm a big believer that, and this is just from what I've seen, and it doesn't mean it's right and I'm right, but whenever, like, a new progression or hashtag or, trending thing starts, it starts great, but then it starts getting more toxic, more toxic, more toxic, it starts leveling up, right? So I think the base of Red Pill when it first started had a great meaning for it years ago, right? So I was all for it. But then when I started noticing, like, how they would speak about um, other people, including men. It's not just women. Like, they would talk down, like, "Oh, he's being a little bitch. Oh, what's that word? Oh, simp, like, you're being a simp," or something like this. They started using all these words and calling each other out instead of supporting one another. So it really just fed into what we're doing in men in our society anyways, is we're feeding them lies, okay? I want you to like, really like, this is the stuff that keeps me up at night. This is, like, crazy. like, as a woman, like, and the reason why is because I know what it's like to be in the world as a woman, and so I'm now working with men, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh." It's not meaning that they have it worse, but it's, like, to an extreme of, like, anger and, I would say, like, manipulation is what I mean. And, like, if you think about it, in the pornography world, it is a high ratio of how many men are signed up in pornography, right? Okay, that's one lie. 2, when you look at advice online for men and women, you don't see too much toxic advice for women. There's some toxic advice, don't get me wrong, but there's more like, there's those feminazis and all this stuff that's going on, but it's not like pushed too much. It's not talked about too much in the women community. But the red pill, all these other people that are doing it for entertainment, for clout, they're doing it because men fall for it. So that's another lie. Okay. And so they're pinning up men to fight against each other and call each other simps and call each other whatever else they'll call each other to start a war internally with another and actually get into this comparison game. So when they start this comparison game, they easily go into, well, this guy slept with 10 women and this guy only slept with 3. Well, this guy slept with 100, so he only slept with 5, right? So he's more man than I am. And da, da, da. So now we're in this comparison thing. Now we get into the comparison thing in number 5. So we're being lied to number 4. Now the fifth lie is, oh, because she's young and hot, he's the man. But yet when he goes home, he's probably having no intimacy with her. They're not connected. But yet this other man has a woman that maybe has 5, 10 pounds overweight, pretty, still gets attention, has a career, and they have the most intimacy connection in all 6 pillars. But he's not the man. And he's weak and he's emotional and he's this. And so what we're not doing in this communities anymore is we're not teaching men how to regulate and master their emotions, right? We're teaching them to blame, to shift, to compare, to pre-approve, look for self-approval in all areas. I feel like men are the most lied to out of anybody. And that's where my business, I feel like, took off because I get it in that aspect. And in the community, all they're doing is they're coming from pain. Half of these men that shoot these videos are men that have been betrayed, are men that have been cheated on, are men that, I mean, probably don't even have young girls as children yet, right? Because imagine a man saying half the stuff he does and his little girl finding it, right? I really think of, and the same thing goes for women about men. So, but it's not as huge as it is in the men's community. So I think this is why it's happening. And I think also too, there's not a connection to God too when we're in that space. And unfortunately, and this is what I tell men is like, I didn't even know who this, I don't want to mention any names, but he's big on in the internet. And I had a client actually come up to me at the airport. Well, a person that's subscribed, and he was like, I love you. And I also love this other guy. Right. And he's like blown up in the internet for calling like women need to take responsibility for their rape. That's basically what's happening right now. Right. And saying all this stuff, but I get why he's saying that. He's an entertainer. He's not a coach. He's an entertainer. He's doing this for entertainment and he's doing it the right way. He's getting clout, he's getting followers. It's great for him because he's in his wheelhouse. I don't think anything bad of that person because if I did, I have a cord attached to that anger, right? So I see where he's showing up in life because people like him need to be in life. But this is where I'm saying, I asked him, how was I in the same sentence of that person? Because we're two totally different things. Well, it's because you talk about being on your purpose and finding value and dating a woman with integrity, and he does the same thing. I'm like, well, here's the thing. Here's where you go wrong. And this is what you're doing. This is what men are doing wrong in general with relationships. I mean, advice online. You need to look at a person online wholeheartedly and say, is everything that they're teaching line up with my intention, my values, and what I want from life? Just like in a relationship, are you going to date? This is where we get in toxic relationships. We stay in toxic relationships because, well, that person's nice. She treats my son really good, but she does treat me bad and she doesn't contribute to the household and she's disrespectful and she lies to me, but yet she's really good with my mom. So then we're having a toxic relationship with online as well, right? So it's also setting the tone of how we're showing up and what we're calling in our life. Hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. Where do you see, maybe guys looking for too much advice? Like, the story you shared here, this young man, like he's listening to you, he's listening to Tate, he's listening to probably Fresh and Fit. He's probably listening to a lot of other people. I see this in my world. It's like, Frank, guys in my program will tell me they're watching other coaches' videos when I've given them exactly what they need to do every single week. And I'm like, that would work if you're following everything he or she is saying. mine is going to work. I saw this in the fitness world as well. I did online coaching and training for 10 years before getting into this word. It's like every diet will work if you stay consistent with it. Every proper training program, if it's periodized right, if it's structured in a proper way, will produce the results. But you can't pick Monday's workout from this program, Tuesday's workout from this program, and then eat whatever meal plan you want throughout there. So where do you maybe see guys looking for too much advice out there in the world instead of saying, this is my person, I'm going to follow the course of action, stay consistent, and allow this work, the what I'm doing on myself, to play out over time? It's like they're looking for the quick fix.
The quick fix.
Yeah,
Mhm.
how have you seen
Yeah,
this?
the one line. A couple ways. So number one, I think guys that are listening, you have to be smart, like with online, right? Like you just do. You don't go out there and buy a Porsche because of the lower price. You go out of the Porsche because you know that's a sports car. You know that's going to give you status. You know the warranty is amazing. You know, right? Then you can go out there and buy a Honda. It's going to get you from place to place, but it probably won't make you feel as great and all this stuff, right? So that's where I say is like, and Hondas are still good. I had a Honda CR-V, by the way, first time. Shout out to Honda because that car was really good. Anyways, by the way, so one of the caveats of what I'm trying to say with this analogy is like you have to understand like what these people are doing online too, right? Like I don't really talk about like these guys, and I think you said I haven't even I've probably seen one video because a client sent it to me. I think Fit something fresh
Fresh and
something.
fit. Yeah, they're down in
Oh,
Miami,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, like oh, yeah, yeah, those are the guys down in Maine. Like, they're on their road. They're on their path, right? That's their path. I have nothing wrong with what they're teaching because it's also entertainment, right? Like, it's a reality entertainment. It feeds the views, it feeds the stuff, but how much people do invest in that stuff? It's literally entertainment, right? So you have to decipher, like, am I needing to really be entertained, or do I really need a level of professionalism in my life to get me from point A to point B? So understanding like these guys, they might have great advice every once in a while for sure. But I don't know, and I don't know because I don't watch, but I do know that you have to figure out what position, first of all, everything is in, right? So, for example, like in my channel, you won't ever hear me talk about this. You won't ever hear me doing, see me doing, what does they call it? Videos where you do other people's videos, reaction
Oh,
videos where other
reaction videos.
people
Yeah.
talking about other people. No, like I'm a coach. I want men that want real results, professional results to come to me and get life changing transformation. And I will show you that because I have a life that I've built and a beautiful marriage. And I want to maintain that in an amazing team that stands behind me basically and helps me with everything. Right. And I actually care so much on a different level that I don't want to involve myself there. So looking at like, what are they doing in the lines of their business? How do they speak? And then from there, I think what men are doing is they're trying to find not only those quick fixes, but it's like they're so used to being lied to, number one. They're so used to being judged for doing things wrong that they have to kind of weigh out their odds, quote unquote. So here's what I will say and what I've seen. I'm going to be completely honest. Yeah, those guys do go to those other guys. A lot of them do. And I think that they serve a purpose. But guess what? They end up coming to me, and I got to clear all of everything that they have learned because finally they're like, this doesn't work. I'm angry. I don't like how this feels. This is inauthentic. I've already slept with 80 women and I'm still empty. I found you and you were a breath of fresh air. Right. So that's what I mean is like, everybody's here to serve their own purpose of how they are in the world because if they never had them, they would have never probably found me too or wanted me because then maybe when they weren't ready for me, right? Too at that time. So I definitely would tell men when you're in that growth to the next level now, when you want to grow and you know you have stuff to work on, you have to focus on one thing at a time. And the person that tells you that it's going to take longer is the person that you need to believe.
Yeah. And growth is actually, I mean, it's found in doing, not in consuming. Like if you're going to grow and become the man that's going to attract this woman, a YouTube video is going to give you some tips and strategies, but that transformation is going to come out of you actually putting in the work. Watch enough videos that you understand the framework and concept and then take it out and apply it. And like we talked about at the beginning, stumble, fail, hit a roadblock, pick yourself back up, surround yourself with community. I think I was more speaking to just like constantly consuming, looking for that secret when the secret is you actually putting in the work.
Oh, for sure. It's that you have to. And sometimes you're not always that coachable. Like a lot of people also have an addiction to personal development. But I've read all these books and nothing has happened. right? Like, I've seen that too, and you have to be ready. And this is what I tell clients and people all the time. What you pay for is value, and then the result comes. What people do is opposite. They wanna pay for a result so they can see value.
Yeah, they're looking for a savior in their life. Is your toothpaste attacking your manhood? Probably. There's new science that demonstrates store-bought toothpaste may be linked to lower testosterone levels. But here's the catch-22. You got to keep your mouth clean, right? Poor oral hygiene is linked to low T and ED. But at the same time, big paste and natural paste options are packed with feminizing, manhood-killing ingredients that crush your confidence. Men swallow this stuff every day when they brush their teeth. No wonder testosterone levels have declined every decade since the introduction of these harsh chemicals in our everyday products back in the 1950s. But what's it got to do? Until now, there were never no other options. Yet with the brand new legendary men's care toothpaste bundle, you can get your clean teeth, brighten your smile, and freshen your breath with the only toothpaste carefully crafted just for men. Free of harsh, kick to the nuts chemicals found in store-bought paste, and safe from hippie oils and popular natural brands toothpaste that cause increasing moves, aka man boobs. For a limited time, you can get free shipping on your order of legendary men's care toothpaste, plus an extra 10% off when you use the coupon code REBUILD10. Again, go to legendarymenscare.com right now, get free shipping plus an extra 10% off when you order today with coupon code REBUILD10. One thing you said was with the importance for men to be able to manage and kind of regulate his emotions. If you can, maybe take the coach's hat off here for a minute and speak to this from the female perspective. Why is it important, or why are women looking for a guy that is stoic and has the ability to master it? Not void of emotions, because emotions are human experience. That's like we're all going to have them, but the ability to regulate, control them, and have real master. Like from a female's perspective, can you maybe speak to that?
Yeah. I definitely think when a man's able to master his emotions as a woman, like I feel more safe. I feel more safe with him to make bigger decisions for me, our relationship, our family. I feel like I can step in more into my feminine and trust him more and be more turned on by him because I know if I need something, a decision to be made, excuse me, he's going to do it. And he can make the best decisions overall in life. I also know that he holds a container for my emotions, and when he holds a container for my emotions, I feel closer to him, and I feel more turned on sexually by him as well. Gosh, I can go on. So also too, it shows that he has a lot of clarity, and so a woman want a man that they admire. I want a man that I admire. I want to be with a man that I admire. Does a paycheck help? Yes. I'm not going to tell you it doesn't. I don't want to, and especially if I'm having bringing in money too. But it's not the end all be all. What I want a man that is intentional and knows what he wants from life because then I can admire him. I want to learn from him too, right? Because then I can still be in my feminine. The last thing I want to do in my own marriage is still be in my masculine because I'm always in my masculine when I'm coaching and doing interviews. I wanna be the biggest baby ever, right? So, like and I can because he holds that space all the time and constantly because it's natural for him. And the reason why it's natural for him, and I've seen it as a wife, is because he's so in tune with his own needs, and he's not scared to call them out when they're not met by me. And having those open conversations and that dialogue instead of pointing fingers and assuming and coming from expectation, because expectations always kill admiration, asking questions about it. Like, "Why isn't this happening? What's going on?" And then also, like, caring for my needs, and that's, like, my family, right? Be having a relationship with my mother, that's the other way to my heart, right? And just knowing those sides of your partner that can really contribute to her life, and then naturally as a woman, I do the same thing for him, I just follow now. And it becomes a flow for the both of us because when he opens up that container and I can step into my feminine, I'm in flow and I follow whatever he does. I do it too naturally. That's it. But the moment he puts up that resistance and is too masculine and he's like kind of angry, I get defensive and angry. I'm in my masculine, right? And that's when we're both like, all right, something's going on right now. We got to talk. And it happens. But I think that's really, really the biggest thing is when a man can emotionally regulate his emotions, a woman can trust him.
I love that. So beautiful. Thank you for that. And I think a big thing that I was really getting out of that was like, this has to be natural. Like this has to be your way of being for a man. It's not a tactic. It's not a tip, a strategy. It's like, no, you're going to learn these, but then you got to put in the work. You got to get the coaching. You got to go out there, fail, practice 10,000 hours, become a master so that it just happens by default, because there's going to be times in life where you can't be thinking. You're just naturally or subconsciously reacting to things. And if you've been relying on tactics and strategies, you're going to default back to your old patterns. And then that's going to create this massive chaos. It's got to be just who you are and who you're becoming.
Exactly. You just said it. If you rely on tactics and strategies, you will just continue to go back on your old habits because tactics and strategies are the band-aid. And this is where when I get so in my head is like, we're teaching men, be like this guy, say what he does, do this, that we're not embracing authenticity. Like I got worked with this guy. He was like younger and he called himself this dorky Asian guy. And he kind of was. He presented himself as dorky Asian, I guess, with glasses, everything. Now this guy's body language is insane. He is dating, he's having fun. He's young, but he's being intentional. He's like, listen, I would love to date, but I'm not ready for a relationship. I'm going to school to be a doctor. I'm just really just dating around. Maybe in about a year I'll be ready. If you're ready for a relationship, let's not date. Like he's very intentional. And I've seen him do a full 180 and he uses his quirkiness, which is him, to his advantage and it works with women all the time because he owns who he is. He's not trying and this guy actually invested a lot in pickup and I had to unravel all of it because he was getting numbers but he wasn't taking to the second date. He wasn't getting a girl to kiss him. He wasn't getting a girl to the next level and it's everything I had to unravel. And then now he's like, "Oh my gosh, Apollonia, this is insane." Like he's like he's like, "I just this is easy." And I'm like, "Yeah, because you have a relationship now with yourself."
And you're just going out there and presenting that person to the world. And it's like, wow, this is so easy. And it's just the attraction just comes. We talked about at the beginning. Yeah, so freeing, so freeing. We talked about your 7 common mistakes. And I think maybe what I'd like to do now, if we can maybe, I'll read the 7 mistakes here and maybe add, you can just kind of add, 1 or 2 little nuggets and we'll kind of maybe wrap up and use that as a way to close out today's conversation. So mistake number 1, she's too good for me.
Oh, I like that. I'm loving that you're doing this because I made this so long ago, I forgot, like, what was in here to be honest. Yeah, so she's too good for me. So this is a mistake a lot of men do when they focus on just her beauty sometimes, or, she's a great powerhouse in work, or how she shows up in life and travels in the world. We go into this self-fulfilling prophecy of she's too good for me, so I have to make this work. This is my only chance. But instead looking at it as, "Oh, wow, this girl's attracted to me. All right, I'm doing something right. This is opening up the container for possibly other women just like her to be attracted to me too." So now you're setting yourself aside from self-approval on her end to looking at, "Let me see how she shows up." Because if she doesn't show up the right way and if she's not aligned with my values, I can attract another woman just like her. But when it's like this, we go into that self-approval prophecy where it's like, "I gotta make this work."
It's putting men back in that power seat, right? As you're a chooser just as much as she is. The kind of what we talked about at the beginning. I love that so much. So we got mistake number 2, diving in head first when there's only 3 feet of water.
Ooh, I like this one. So I have a tagline that I say, it's always like, pacing is the root of attraction, right? That's my number one thing. I always say that. I should trademark it one day. I say pacing is the root of attraction. This is exactly why. Because if you dive in, basically, if you try to speed the retraction process up, you're going to hit your head and you're going to fail. No one dives in 3 feet of water because you're going to hit your head and you're going to fail and you're going to knock out and session over, basically, right? But if we're taking our time to swim to the deep end and then figuring things out and then taking the opportunity to dive into the deep end, then we're doing things right. And that's what that's talking about in there is like attracting a woman effortlessly, while meaning effortlessly means by time. And the only way we're able to do that is understanding that dating is an assessment process. And that's why I always try to get men to get out of, let me show her what I'm about, but instead, let me see what she's about.
I love that so much. All right, moving along. Number 3, setting the wrong date and dating mistakes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. This is where I come into my woman. This is not even a coach. Do not in a million years ask a woman where to go. Don't ask her to how much is free parking if there's free parking around you. Don't ask her to figure out the details. Don't ask her, go back and forth. Well, I don't know. I do like Mexican, but I really want an Italian and da 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 da. The indecisiveness in the beginning is an instant turn on. Turn off for a woman, excuse me. A man with the plan is a man that wins, basically, at the end of the day. A woman will always tell you, "Hey, no, I'm sorry, like, I don't like Mexican. Is there any way we can do something else? Maybe XYZ," right? But obviously, in planning the date, you're gonna ask her, what time works the best for you and things like that. But when it comes to decision making, just make the decision. Okay, as a woman, this is how women think, guys. Don't knock me for it. I always say the truth. This is exactly how women think. If I'm working so hard on how I look and my appearance and showing up in this beautiful dress and my makeup done and my hair done, I don't want to do any more work than I have to already done because it already took me an hour to get ready.
Decision
Right?
fatigue. Yeah. I mean, there's
Yeah.
decision fatigue is going to sit in.
Yeah, exactly. So there we
No,
go.
I love that, and it's allowing the woman to fall into her feminine. Like she wants to be led, and if you can't lead from the gate on the first date, she's right out of the gate. She's like, this dude's not going to be able to lead me anywhere. In chaos, he's not going to be able to handle because he can't operate in peace. I love that so much.
And it's not because we just say it. It's because we've been through it. Like, you know how many dates that's happened to me and they were all horrible? Like almost 100% of them. I went on a good date, as a blind date with someone my friend thought was like a best thing ever. And he was complaining for 45 minutes about how there was no free parking downstairs in my apartment. Like, because we were going to walk to the restaurant. And I was like, I can't believe this is happening right now. I just want to cancel, but he's already downstairs. I feel bad. And it ended up being the worst date because he was just so emotionally immature. He couldn't hold a conversation with me. He was making judgmental things about other people in the restaurant comments. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to go. And so that's why I said because it's not like we're doing it intentionally. It's just because 9 times out of 10, like we didn't listen to our intuition and we want to be led. And so we know if a man's being intentful, it starts with leading us. And we know that he's going to be intentful on the date and we're going to have a better time.
Yeah, I love that. This next one I think is going to be difficult for a lot of people because we live in a world where nobody, communicates other than through text. But common mistake number 4, overly texting.
Setting the tone. You do not try to get a woman. I mean, you do not try to get to know a woman through text. Okay, so I always say texting, you have to use it as a resource, also to build a little bit of banter if you can after the date, and then planning the date, right? Check in, light banter, planning dates. If you do those 3, you're good. But you'll notice you'll have a lot of women that like to text. If you are a man that doesn't like to text, because that's okay, you blatantly tell her, listen, I'm a horrible texter. I am busy throughout the day. I would love to text you, but how about we just get on a call tonight or I'll just text you tonight and we have a little bit of a combo. As long as you're setting the tone and you're not doing all day, every day, forgetting about your job, da 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 da, it'll work out.
Well, yeah, I'd be curious what is a woman thinking with, a guy that's, replying to every text within 30 seconds, like, throughout the day. Like if we're supposed to be on purpose, we're supposed to be creating, leading, doing good for other people, whether it's in our business or at our job. We shouldn't always have the phone readily available. I got to assume like the woman's subconscious is like, this guy, like he doesn't have much going on because he's always readily available and responsive to me.
Yeah, that's definitely if it's a very off it's like a it's a prominent thing that's happening, like if you're always doing it. But, when a woman is attracted to a man and he texts her and he's like, "Hey babe, was thinking about you. Hope your day is going good." That's like cake for a woman, right? Like we can't take that essence away,
Yeah, of
right?
course. Yeah.
So, like, I don't want men to think like they can't do that. That's like a good one. But I think what we're talking about more is like when she's trying to have a conversation with you and you're working and not always replying. That's where I'm saying is like just drawing the line and be like, hey, I have a meeting for a couple hours, or I need to really focus on job application. If you don't have to tell her what you're doing, but it's about choosing your moments and saying, is this text message taking me away from something I need to do today and push forward with today? Yes. All right. This means I need to wait to respond,
Mistake
even if
number
it doesn't work
5. Yeah, yeah,
out.
yeah. Mistake number 5. I'm definitely hoping to bring some clarity to this one. Following the rules. What rules?
Following the rules. Oh, that's why. Yeah, that's my thing. So Okay, so in there, I think I talk about I haven't made this in a while. Can you give me the first sentence of what I said in that?
Yeah,
Do you
so
have it?
there are so many metaphors, and that's the black book. What's the name of the book again? I honestly think that's the worst book
Oh,
ever
yes,
written
yes,
because
yes.
the behavior suggests a man is completely unnecessary, brings out narcissistic behaviors. Oh, yes, the
I get it.
game.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, The Black Book, the Game. Yes. So I think that that was a good book on the side of confidence for men, for sure. But what happens is what men start to do, and you've seen this, Frank, I need rule number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then number 7, Apollonia. What do I say? This is means I get the girl.
Yes.
That's what I mean by that. Is like you can't follow rules. You embrace attraction to you and what you want and your needs. But it's not about following a specific thing. I've literally seen men write down, okay, step 1, flirting. I have to make sure I have emotional connection. Step 2 on their hand and they'll look at it on a date, but you're not present. So that's why I say like following rules, what rules? There's a difference between understanding it and embracing it when the time is right within yourself, and then there's a difference between understanding it on a logical level and thinking, "Okay, checked off, I did that on the date. Next one, check off," right? That's what I mean on that one.
Yeah, no, it goes back to what we talked about at the beginning, or not at the beginning, but kind of midway when you were talking about your husband. This is just who he naturally is. He's reached that unconscious competence where he just shows up and he's just a masculine allows you to fall into that. He's not operating out of a rule book. What does Apollonia need me to do right now? It's like, no, he just knows. So no.
Yeah, he's like I'll be like, "I need this from you, babe. This is my rule." "Rule? Please. I'll tell you what I need that too then. If you wanna play this game, I'll tell you what I," and he has fun with it too. That's because he's embracing it. Mhm.
Maybe this one we can give some tips on how to stay out of it. But common mistake number 6, falling into the friend zone.
Ooh, so not showing intent, men. You always have to make your intent known with a woman. Okay. Example. One of my guy friends, Emil, he will never show me intent because he's my guy friend. He's my best friend. He's in the friend zone happily, obviously, because I'm married and we have this great relationship as friends. He's like my brother, right? So the difference is you have to separate yourself from a brother, a cousin, a father. What would those men do and say to her? A lot of men try to keep it even keel and they don't call a date a date. They don't show interest in a woman on another level of I want something more from her because they think, oh, if I do it, I'm going to be needy, or if I do it, I'm going to be creepy, or if I do it because they're not in tune with their sexual also nature. And this happens a lot with getting into the friend zone. The number one thing that they do is become overly nice. And typically when they're overly nice is because they have a troubles showing intent, why they are there in the first place.
Yeah, no, I love that. And the last one here, the savior complex. When to let her pay and overgifting.
Yeah. So savior complex is what we talked about a little bit in the beginning is if I can control this situation, that means that I'll help her and she'll like me, right? Like if I show her that I'm just this great man and I continue to help her and give her gifts and take her on nice vacations, buy her a handbag, then she's going to see that I'm the best guy ever. But what happens in a woman's mind is we're like, what did I do that was so special that this man is giving me all this and doing all this for me? So we start questioning our own reality of what type of man do we really have in front of us? Like, who is he that he just fell for me so easily? Right? Because it's not women, it's people, it's human dynamics. We always want something we have to work for, always. And that's the key to your relationship is a lot of people think, oh, because I'm human, I just deserve love. No, absolutely not. Love is something you have to work for, just like your job, just like your career. I mean, just like your career, just like your podcast that you have, just like, um, your speeches, whatever it is, right? We always have to work for something, but where we don't correlate is we think it's games in relationship, but it's actually you have to look at it as healthy understanding of human dynamics and how we work. And once we do, that can start to go away.
I love that. Love that so much. I think that's a great place to bring today to a close here. Dating is nothing more than human dynamics, and when you understand it, when you understand yourself first, it makes the game, if it is a game, so much more to play and operate in. Tell the girls where they can connect with you, find out more about you, your coaching. Obviously, maybe download the book if they want to go deeper on some of these 7 common mistakes, and then we'll bring today's conversation to a close with our last question.
Yeah, thanks so much for today's conversation. I really enjoyed it. Just you can either Google Apollonia Ponti, whatever, however you spell it, it'll come up. And then I would tell them to start at my YouTube channel. I have really good material for them in creating a relationship and see what my advices are. And it's just Apollonia Ponti, my name on YouTube.
Yeah, guys, and we'll get all that plugged down. Definitely check out the YouTube channel. Massive reach, massive channel. I think it's approaching 700,000. So that's shows that there's some good stuff coming out of there. Thankful for the conversation here today. We'd like to end every single episode with the same question. Obviously, the title of our show is called The Superhuman Life. For me, I think living a superhuman life is understanding that you're here for a purpose, but it's putting in intentional work every single day. Am I growing in the skill sets needed to bring that purpose to the world? But I like to get the guest take. So Apollonia, as we bring today's conversation to a close, how would you define living a superhuman life?
I think living a superhuman life is, I love this question because I was actually thinking about this morning and yesterday, is looking at everybody that comes to you that is either disappointed or mad or angry as they're just somebody that is going through something, and it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. That is the moment that they cannot control your emotions. That's the moment that you have full control of your emotions in your life, and you're not living for other people, you're just living for yourself, and you're giving them the eyes to see them in a different level that other people can't see them in. And I think that's what we need more in our life.
So beautiful said. So beautiful said. Apollonia, thank you so much for what you're doing, for the work with men, for transforming so many lives, for creating relationships in the world that may not have ever been there had you not been here. So I truly believe you're also walking and living out your purpose. So we're grateful to have you on the show here today. Guys, if you got value out of this conversation, you can help us support us in one of two ways. We've seen some tremendous growth, and it's all because of you guys out there. Make sure to leave us a 5-star rating and written review, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, whatever platform. But more importantly, if there's somebody in your life that's maybe going through some struggles, maybe they're struggling to find the right one, maybe they're not on purpose yet, and some of today's conversation would help them. Do us a favor, but do them the blessing by sharing today's conversation with them. But for Apollonia Ponti, Frank Ritz, The Superhuman Life, we love you guys. We'll see you next week.